Akhetaten's Gates, Chapter 27. I awoke slowly one morning, feeling Akhetaten behind me, holding me in his arms. This cozy moment was very pleasing, making me smile and let out both a hum and a sigh. To my surprise, he was awake too, moving his hands down to rub my belly. "You are radiant, my love," he sighed. "And you are very snuggly," I purred. How I wish this could have gone on all morning. But alas, the knocking came to the door, and he bid them to enter. In came the usual guards placed outside of his room, as well as... "Ramose? It's rather odd for you to come here, Ramose," I said. "Normally it's Tepi, Amenhotep, that comes to bid us news." "Please forgive me, Majesties," Ramose said, getting to his knees. "Amenhotep is in the throne room with Her Majesty Queen T, entertaining an ambassador. He and his wife insist that they speak to you about a matter they deem very important. They want your audience." "Ambassador?" Akhenaten mulled. "I see so many. One would have to... Oh dear." "What is it?" "Do you remember when I gave the brush off to an ambassador and his wife last year? Could it be that they have returned to make audience with me?" "Quite some traveling," I remarked. "Nevertheless, Ramose makes them sound awfully demanding. So if this is that important, perhaps then I should hear them out." "As Tepi would say," I chuckled. "Politics are like that." Akhenaten sighed, getting out of bed. Ramose, still on his knees, respectfully averted his eyes. The guards didn't seem to care either way, for they had seen it all before. To guard the royal bedroom, one had to be ready to see what a bedroom entails and handle it professionally. "I suppose, then, I have evaded them long enough. Will you be joining me?" I stretched my hands over my head with a yawn, speaking unladylike. "I'll pass this time. I promised my day to the girls today." "Dear me. Then be careful. You know when the girls get together, they can become very dangerous and destructive," he chuckled. "Don't worry about me," I assured as I sat up. "I will be having extra hands today." He nodded, stalling. It was obvious that he really was not looking forward to dealing with this nonsense today. But as he had stated, he had been putting them off and evading them for quite some time, and now he could not ignore them any further. Queen T was only able to do so much, and their persistence meant that the matter would not be put to rest until Pharaoh made an appearance. So be it. "I want red," Merodachon announced. "You can have it when I get my green," Merodachon argued. The girls were having a nice break from the monotony and trying their hands at painting. A princess practicing the work of a mere artisan was an absurd thought, but they seemed to enjoy it, and it was good practice. T had opted to not include Akhetaten in this useless folly. As I had said, there was no purpose for a princess to know the art of painting. How common. Hara was playing the part of co-tutor today, though he was not normally a member of Merodachon's educational staff. This was a treat from the boring things the Sepin Ptah rambled on about to the child. He sat nearby, watching. He didn't seem too offended at the notion, but rather enjoyed being paid to do practically nothing at this point. Even when it came to education, Merodachon was a real handful. Akhetaten was present as well, painting on the other side of the stool I was sitting on. She was no gentle hand, either. She eagerly took the paint and slapped it onto a piece of papyrus. She was rather used to tuning out her sisters, going about her business obliviously. I was starting to question the use of papyrus, as more paint seemed to end up on her person. "Give me my red," Merodachon ordered. "You want red?" Akhetaten spat. "Here's your stupid red." And with that, Akhetaten took the red paint and threw it at her older sister, splattering it all over. "You little..." Merodachon shouted, throwing the green in response, getting somewhat similar results. This could be a real mess, if it wasn't one already. And it had to stop. Up I got as Hara tried desperately to separate the girls, and in great hopes to save the paint. Bless his heart, but coaxing the girls was not going to work. Sepinptah, a little help here, I shouted. He immediately rushed over and grabbed Meridaten about her body, pinning her arms to her body and holding her fast. Sepinptah was a rather muscular man, middle-aged, and was overall able to quell her. I was pulling at Akhetaten. Hurrah, feeling helpless, simply shielded Akhetaten, who merely continued to smear paint on her papyrus, unaware of the goings-on. Being restrained so, they tired quickly. Thank goodness. "What is with you two?" I scolded. "Can't you two get along?" "Mom," Meridaten shouted, "Akhetaten started it, didn't you see?" "Maybe it would help if you stopped trying to be so bossy," I replied. Then I turned my attention to Akhetaten. "Akhetaten, what is wrong, girl? Why do you have to lash out so? It's very unbecoming of a lady and a princess, and is rather embarrassing." She broke away from me and stomped her foot. "I hate being in the middle. You don't listen to me. You and everybody else likes Meridaten better." Before anyone could either console or talk some sense into her, she turned to run to her chambers in tears. "Akhetaten, clean up! Don't drag paint everywhere you go," I called after her. Oh, geez. Kids were a handful. Why was I having another one again? I gave a tired sigh and sat back down on the stool as everything went quiet for a moment. Akhetaten, out of nowhere, pushed Hara away from her and held up her dripping papyrus. "Mama, that for you," she said. I think she was trying to say, "Mommy, I made this for you." But children at that age, they're so cute with their innocence. Was that why I was having another? No, it was simply because Akhetaten wanted another, and I simply accepted it. But to see Akhetaten smiling so happily, it was amusing how she seemed oblivious to the chaos past. I loved my Hellion children. Later that afternoon, I trudged to my chamber, covered from head to toe in a plethora of mucky colors of paint. I might have been quite a sight to all that I had passed, but I wasn't the only one donned in this strange and primitive fashion trend. Aside from my girls, Hara and Sepinptah were just as decked out as I. I gasped when I entered my chamber and found Akhetaten sitting on my couch, fidgeting with one of the decorative pillows. It was rather unlike him. More often than not, we met in his chambers. It was only on the rare occasion that I'd find him here. Something was up. He had apparently been waiting here for quite some time. However, his guilty demeanor changed once he laid eyes on me. "Blah! Nefertiti? What happened?" "Princess plus paint equals mess," I explained. "Multiply by 3 equals disaster area." I looked at him as he began to fidget with the pillow once more. "What about you? Did things go poorly with the ambassador?" "They were a very demanding and insistent pair, I must say," he replied. He frowned with a long face and couldn't even look me in mine. "Nefertiti, I'm so sorry." "What did you do?" I gasped. "Oh no. Akhetaten, are we going to war?" "Not exactly," he said cautiously. "The trade involved a marriage agreement. He wants me to marry his daughter. Being as he's an upstanding citizen of his country, a marriage alliance would perhaps be a nice way to quell the tensions between our countries since the death of my father. So it's another political marriage thing. His daughter is but a child now, about Meridaten's age, but when she comes of age, he wishes to send her here." "There's nothing to apologize for," I shrugged. "Over the years, many political brides have been sent to you from not just other countries, but tributaries in and out of Egypt. That's just what they do. It makes them look good to have blood in Egypt. I don't see why that would make you look like this. Just send her to Luxor or Memphis to be with the other harem wives. That is just as you have always done." "That practice has not gone unnoticed, Nefertiti," he replied flatly. "When I said that he was sending her here, I meant that he was sending her here, to Akhetaten. It has come to the concern of many that I have not sired a son. Seeing as this is an opportunity to form some strong bonds and rekindle relationships with Egypt, he wanted to offer his daughter to assist in the situation. My obligation is to welcome her with great hospitality and to get her pregnant. The hope is, he swallowed hard, watching me warily at this point, to impregnate her with the seed of a prince, and have born to her the crown prince of Egypt. What? How could you agree to something like that? He shielded his face with the pillow and cowered slightly. I'm sorry, Nefertiti. That's politics again. That was the final agreement, and it had to be taken. But please don't be angry. There is still hope. What do you mean? You've yet to bear me a son. You said that it didn't matter, I declared in outrage. It doesn't matter to me, Nefertiti, but it does matter to the people of Egypt. It matters to our allies. If you do not or cannot produce a son for Egypt before the new bride arrives, then she will be placed in the running for the title of king's mother. If she produces a son when you cannot, her son will be named crown prince, heir to the throne, future king of Egypt. That is bullshit. You are a god on earth. As a semi-divine man, can you not do the holy gesture of naming Akhetaten as your heir? Can't you do something? I am a man as well, a man bound by the responsibilities of the role of pharaoh. Had this not been my obligation, it would not be so. It is when politics invade and come into conflict with you and I that I long for the life of a common man. But then, I would feel less of a man, unable to give you all that you deserve. It's a no-win situation, and I hate it just as much as you do. You and I were true and monogamous to one another, and so I wish it could remain. And it could still be so. But I may have to make this sacrifice for the approval of Egypt. You, Nefertiti, and never forget it, are my universe. You will always be the passion of my life. Our union, our children came from a special love that we could never have for anyone other but each other. This nonsense is mere politics and means nothing to my heart. As pharaoh, I am a politician, whether I like it or not. As queen, you are a politician, whether you like it or not. That is our royal obligation, Nefertiti, and so far we have done an acceptable job. Let's not let it fall apart now. I swear to do everything in my power, but Egypt will need a prince. He stood and carefully approached, crouching a little as he took one of my paint-covered hands. Nefertiti, what you and I have, that girl could never hope to possess. It is our family that will always be my priority. I would gladly hold off as long as I can, for I desire none other than you. However, if we fail, the pressure will be on. I would rather quell the demands of my country than to begin some civil war or anything more. Isn't there another way? I asked, almost pleadingly. Well, there's always a chance, he replied. Perhaps she will turn up barren. Perhaps she will disgrace herself and she will be exiled. She may prove unsuccessful as well. I frowned, needing to take a seat and take it all in. I had never thought that I'd be forced to share Akhetaten with anybody. I thought we had made it clear in year 1 of our marriage. Akhetaten looked away, seemingly thinking off distantly, but also seeming unhappy with said thought. What is it? There is another option, he said cautiously. But I don't think you'd like it in the least bit. It would be a case of politics over morality once more. Go on. Did I really want to know? Well, after Tutmose died, my mother was afraid that my father would overlook me to choose a son from the harem. My father was convinced to marry Sidamun and give her a title of a lesser queen. If my father could not see me, my mother hoped he could at least produce then a new son and heir with Sidamun. My response was in disgust. I knew very well that incest was not uncommon in the royal family, but normally consisted of brothers and sisters to some degree. But an incestual relationship between father and daughter? It was a shock. I had known Sidamun for as long as I had been returned to Egypt, and yet knew nothing of this. T and Sidamun, let alone anyone else, said nothing of this sort of thing. I almost wondered if Akhetaten was serious, but that face told no lies. If it was so, then it was so, and he knew I could confront T and Cinnamon to confirm it. He would not chance a horrible lie like that. It was obvious that he could see my protest. "It's not something of my choice, Nefertiti," he assured. "I love my children as my children. But you wanted to know the options that were set before us. Whether we approve or not, it is one that needed to be said. You wanted a way out." I wiped my multicolored face. "What are we going to do?" "That's up to you," he said simply. "But I will have to keep my word. But take ease. You were named my regent early in my reign. Just don't die before me, and we may be able to at least stall a succession. As I said, she is Meridaten's age. It will be several years before she is of an age to marry and bear children." I nodded hesitantly and placed my hands on my belly. How now I prayed for the child within my womb to be a son. It would void all of this nonsense, and it would silence Egypt's insistence to trifle with my family values. He would be Crown Prince Menkaure, son of Akhetaten and his great wife Nefertiti. I would make him the most regal prince I could manage. No king would be more famous than the one to ultimately succeed Akhenaten to the throne. I glanced at him. He still looked rather upset, despite his words of encouragement to me. My frustration and determination must have showed on my face. That, and my husband always had this strange knack for being empathic enough to know what I was feeling or thinking. "Will you be all right?" he asked with concern. "I'll live," I replied flatly. I didn't want to think about it anymore. Desperately, I tried to think up another topic. The girls were quarreling again. "That's nothing new. Who started it this time?" "Akhetaten." He let out a deflated sigh. "I just don't understand it." "It's understandable for a middle child to act out," I said. "Akhetaten is the youngest and needs a lot of attention. Meridaten is the oldest. Akhetaten is stuck in the middle. And this new baby won't make her feel any more special. She believes that we favor Meridaten." He shook his head, getting to his feet and marching to the door, ordering the guard to summon Ramazay. "Why Ramazay?" I asked. "I'm afraid Tepi is already detained by my mother. She too is in a bit of a foul mood. Rarely is he ever a victim or innocent bystander of her rage. I feel it is best to leave him with her." Ramazay soon made his audience, yelling respectfully, and then gasping at the frightful sight of me. Majesties?" "Ramazay, fetch Princess Akhetaten. She will trust you over a guard," Akhenaten ordered. "Bring her here to me." "As you wish, my pharaoh. Right away." Akhenaten turned to me. "I don't want any more children until I can control the ones that I have." "That doesn't leave me with much of a choice, does it?" I replied sarcastically, pointing to my middle. "Never mind. I'm going to clean up. I have a feeling she's no better looking. So you go on ahead somewhere, and we'll catch up after some fresh clothes and more appropriate skin tone." Akhenaten watched as the now clean Akhetaten approached him in his throne, her hand in mine. I released her and took my seat of authority beside my husband, but she came no closer, keeping a 5-foot distance. She fiddled with some of the linen from her clean dress. "Akhetaten, can you tell me what's going on?" her father asked. "Nothing," she muttered. "Then can you tell me where this hostility of yours is coming from? Why can't you and Meridaten get along?" "I don't like her," she pouted. "Oh, come now, that's not true." "It is true. Nobody likes me, so I don't like her." "That is not so," Akhenaten told her. "We all love you very much. Why would you think otherwise?" She puffed out her cheeks, getting rather upset, as could be expected from a child her age. Being looked down on from the throne was no less intimidating. She turned teary eyes up at him. "You never listen to anything I say. You always believe Meridaten, but not me. She gets away with everything because she's the oldest and the favoritist. Akhetaten gets away with everything because she's the youngest and doesn't know anything. I'm in the middle, so I'm not special." It was then that she finally let loose with more hard sobs. "It's not fair. You love Meridaten more. Daddy, you always hold her, kiss her, and play with her. You never do anything with me. Not as much as you do with her. Akhetaten, she's mean to me and gets away with it. She gets all the attention. She's mean and everybody sees her. You see her. If I'm not mean, I'm afraid you won't see me. I could hear a small gasp escape him. His expression was just as shocked. These were his fears as a child staring him back in the face. He feared his father would never see him, always overlook him to see Tutmose. Now his daughter feared that he would not see her. She dropped to the floor on her bottom in genuine tears. I watched him, ready to speak, but before I could, he was quick to motion my silence. The pain was evident in his eyes. He finally stood and quickly made his way over to kneel beside her. Akhetaten, hush now. He scooped her up and held her close. He returned with her to his throne and tenderly wrapped his arms about her. I will always see you, Akhetaten. Nothing would ever make me not see you. I love all of you the same. Being mean doesn't really make you better. Negative attention is no good. Don't let Akhetaten get you so mad. Be happy to just be who you are. That is what I love about you. You don't have to change or pretend for anybody, not even me. You are beautiful. If it is positive attention that you want, you're going to have to help us out a little. But always know that your mother and I would never trade you for anything in the world. Really? She asked with a sniffle and some hopefulness. Akhetaten smiled gently and wiped the tears from her eyes and dried her cheeks. Really, he replied, giving her a hug and a kiss, getting the same in return from her. He did it. He actually solved the problem between our daughters. That was just amazing. To top it all off, Akhetaten didn't want to leave his lap, finally being able to have him all to herself. For the moment, peace was restored to the palace.